Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Ariel and I talk about books here, so if you like reading, welcome. Today we're going to go through what I read in May, and May was an insane reading month. I read so much. I usually don't get past like 10 books that I read, but this month I read a ton, and that was because I got COVID, so I was like trapped in my room with nothing to do, so I just read a bunch. So we're gonna talk about those. So I will be reminding myself that I read these books as I go through, because some of them it feels like I read like months ago, but it was just May. Let's get into them. We're gonna start with the ones that I read on Kindle or listened to on audiobook. So I listened to one audiobook and I read one book on Kindle. So we're gonna talk about those. So first, the audiobook that I read was The Last House on Needless Street. This was a thriller horror kind of book that is very hard to explain. It follows this guy who you're not sure if he like kidnapped someone, but this girl who does have a sister that got kidnapped thinks he did it, so she's like seeking him out, and it's very strange. You're probably not going to know what's happening for the entire story until the end. I gave it a 3-star because it definitely kept me engaged. It was a great plot. It was very unpredictable, but I kind of like the books to be kind of predictable. So then, I don't know, I can like feel smarter than the characters. I don't know if that's just a me thing, but it felt a little like rushed at the end, and like she didn't even know where it was heading until the end, which, I don't know, brought down its rating. So that was a good underrated book. I read that for like my work's book club, so I had never heard of that author, so it was nice to try someone new. Next, I only read one book on Kindle, which I'm gonna try in June to read a lot more because I have it, so I need to use it. But the book that I read was When She Returned by Lucinda Berry. It was a 4-star read for me. I was just gripped to the story the entire time. I was like flying through it because I wanted to know what happened. She's also really great at writing like oblivious dumb men, which is a fun time to read about. Got all of my emotions involved, which is all you can ask for in a thriller book. I didn't even say what this is about. So it's about a cult. There's this woman who gets like sucked into a cult, and then she's gone for like many years, and then she returns. When she returns, yeah. And it's about that. So the only thing that I didn't like that dropped it down was it had a very abrupt ending. I don't know, I liked the ending. I did, but it just felt very quick. And now that I've read other Lucinda Berry books, that seems to be a reoccurring thing. Like her ending will be literally like 5 pages. And there's a bunch of loose ends that you just kind of have to tie up yourself. But it was such a good ride that I had to give it 4 stars. Now on to the physical books. Why'd I say it like that? I was like grabbing a book. Also, I started like heavily annotating this month. This was one of the first books that I read this month, and it's a thriller by none other than Riley Sager. I read this in like 2 days, as I do with all of his books. And this one is about a girl who gets this like extraordinary offer of living in this fancy apartment building for like 3 months, and she gets like $6,000 out of the deal. It's too good to be true. And it is too good to be true because it's a thriller, so bad things are gonna happen. And this was actually my favorite of his books that I've read so far. I've read 3 of them and I really liked this. I just love any book with rich people. I love hearing how they act, and even though these rich people were evil, it like made it interesting. And I don't know, there's something about rich people in books that just gets me every time. And I really liked the main character. I guessed the like big plot twist within the first chapter, which I also did with Survive the Night, but I feel like that's a testament to his writing, that I can know or be pretty sure, I guess, what's going to happen and then still want to keep reading to see the other twists. So really good. Rated it 5 stars. So big fan of that. Then next, I guess we'll talk about the second Riley Sager book that I read, which is Home Before Dark. And this is a thriller horror book. I don't know the difference between thriller and horror, and I don't think I ever will. It's a book within a book. This girl, her dad wrote a book about ghosts that were in their house and like labeled it as nonfiction. And she was like, I don't believe there are actual ghosts. I'm gonna go see. After her dad dies and she finds out that he still owns this creepy house for some reason. So it goes back and forth from the book and real time. And I gave this one a 3-star, which was the lowest that I've given a Riley Sager book. And I think it was because I really liked the parts of the book in the book, but I didn't really like the current timeline. Like that character, I didn't vibe with her, and the like forced romance between her and another character was weird and I didn't like it, and it just, I don't know, I kept wanting to get back into the book in the book. So that was a 3-star, but still a good time, a good fun read, like all of his books are. This is a random one that it's like it's a children's book. I got this from a thrift store like a year ago. It's Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. And look at how pretty it is. I took the dust jacket off because I just thought this was prettier. But anyways, this is the same author of that like Invention of Hugo Cabret or whatever book that I know I read in like middle school. And I saw this at the thrift store, so I was like, I don't know, well, let me grab it. And I read it when I was stuck in my room and needed a like mindless read, because this is basically a picture book. He just has these beautiful drawings and then some text in between for the stories. This is a cute little read. I don't rate middle school books because I'm like, I'm not the intended audience and I don't know how to rate it because I can't like compare it to a book that I've read. It's about this boy who is dealing with the loss of his mother, and then one night, this is at the beginning of the book, he gets struck by lightning and then he's deaf in both ears, and he runs off to New York to find his dad, and things happen. His drawings are just so cool. It felt like I was watching a movie just based on how it goes. I don't know. And it like will zoom in on parts like a movie would. It was just a joy to read. Like this, it'll be like she's looking at a text and then it will show you the text. Kind of want all of his books now. Next, I read The Cartographers. This book I hated. Really did not like it. 2 stars, solid 2 stars. I did this to myself because it was labeled as fantasy, but the description was like kind of mystery, kind of thriller it felt. So I was like, I'm gonna ignore the fantasy label and just do it. Should not have done that. Should not have done that. Too much fantasy. I didn't like it. I'm not a fantasy girl. My brain, my imagination does not travel that far. I can't imagine things outside of this realm. It's basically about this girl, her dad is a cartographer, he makes maps, and then he suddenly dies, and she's like, this is suspicious, foul play. And so she goes to figure it out and like discover secrets from her past. The problem was that the antagonist got like revealed very early on, and I don't know, I guess just in thriller books that doesn't happen, and so I didn't know how to keep the motivation to keep reading once I knew like who the bad guy was and like basically why he did it. But even towards the end, I don't really understand parts of like why he did it and why it was such a big deal, and like I don't know. I think it was just I kept tuning out so much, so this just has not stayed with me in my brain. But it's a beautiful cover. If you like fantasy, you might like this. But I also just don't think it was written very well. But that's that. I'd love to hear from a fantasy person if this is any good. Also, I listened to half of this on audiobook, and that's how you know I don't like a book, when I switch over to audio for it, because I'm too bored, but I want to like finish it, because I am very bad at DNFing books. Then I switch to audio, and that's a bad sign. So, The Cartographers. Next, I read a short story collection, and this I'm so excited for. I was wanting to read this since like last year when the 25th anniversary edition came out, because it's, first of all, the cover is just gorgeous, like those colors, ugh. And then it's about I'm a Latina girl growing up in Chicago, and I went to school in Chicago, so I was like, ooh. And yeah, it lived up to all the hype that I had for it in my mind. Really great stories. The author was like originally a poet, but then also kind of writes short stories, and I love when that happens because I'm not a big poetry fan, but when poets write prose, it's so good. Like you can just like feel everything they're writing in a way that's like that it expands past like words. Like it's a sensory experience. Really, really good. And it kind of gave you like this sense of nostalgia about your own life, even though like I can't relate to anything in her childhood. It was very different from mine, but just like how she wrote the little kids reminds you of like you and your friends riding your bikes around, and it touches on like deeper issues and is so good. So I'll probably read this again. I only put a few tabs, but I wanted to literally tab everything. And yes, I gave that 5 stars. I usually don't rate like short stories because there's some that, you know, hit the mark and some that don't, but this is too good. Next, we have a romance. We have The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, and this book I purely got because of the cover. I'd heard about it a little bit, but I really just wanted the cover. Beth O'Leary's covers are gorgeous. But luckily this book was very good. It was a solid 3.5 stars, which isn't bad. My problem was with the guy's chapters. He spoke very weird. He like wouldn't use pronouns. Like he wouldn't say I, she, he, they, she, he not, like he spoke weird. And it was hard for my brain to comprehend at first. But he starts talking a little more normal as it goes on, and I just don't really understand that choice. And the girl, I really liked her parts because she was a tall girly, like someone, and she loves crafting like someone. So she was great, loved Tiffy, and the story was also fun because it wasn't very like traditional rom-com. It very much focused on their individual lives. The girl was memorable, but overall the story was just kind of like meh. God, I didn't even say what it was about. It's about these two people who this girl is looking for a roommate because her job pays her nothing. She's a writer. And this guy is a nurse and he works night shifts. So he's like, I can have a roommate and we'll just never see each other. We'll share the same bed, but we'll never be in there at the same time, you know? And then they obviously meet eventually and then, you know, fall in love or whatever. But that was the other thing. Like I didn't really see a connection between the two. Like obviously they had a better connection than his ex, but between them, it could have been anyone. It was also very British. I think I got it in like the British copy, or maybe it's only in the British copy. It was very British and it made my little American brain go, what's that? Just like the little slang. I don't know, my brain couldn't do it. Next we have a tiny little baby little book, and this is Convenience Store Woman. I had seen this everywhere last year and found it at the thrift store and was like, this is fate. I've been wanting to read this. And it was really good. Also it's $1.85, so cheap. Anyway, this was really good. I rated it 4 stars. It's about this woman who works in a convenience store and she loves her job, she loves her life. She was like, I would change nothing about this, but everybody else in her life is like, minimum wage job, you work all the time on your feet and you're gonna get old and then not be able to work and then you're gonna die, and you don't have a husband, which is just foul, and everything in your life is bad. And so she's like, ooh, to appease people, I should steer away from that. Yeah, she kind of like lacks social skills, so it's hard for her to like get a husband. I don't really want to say anything else because I think it's so short. You just have to read it. It was really good. I tabbed the heck out of it, and I could have tabbed more. It had so many lines that I was just like, yes, this is relatable, or like describes our society or stuff like that. It hooked me from the start, and yeah, it was just beautiful writing. I will say the ending was so boring. Like, I understand it, but like I wish they could have done something a little bit more. So that's why it was 4 stars, but overall, very fun little read. Next book is Homebody by Rupi Kaur. I picked this up merely for aesthetic purposes. I have her 2 other books that I read in like early college when I was just a little sad girl who was like dealing with depression for the first time, and yeah, needed her poetry. And then I never bought the 3rd, and I was like, I don't know, they'll look cute together. And yeah, I'm not a big poetry fan, so this was like meh. but I respect it. So there's that. No rating because I'm not qualified. Okay, next we have another romance. We have Set on You. This book was going around Bookstagram so much. This is all around Bookstagram, and I was like, it has an interesting premise. I have to pick it up. So it's about this fitness influencer who, this guy steals her favorite squat rack. So naturally they make out. Not that quick, but kind of that quick. They literally make out in the first like 50 pages, which was one of my problems with it. Far too fast to be described as an enemies to lovers. I love enemies to lovers. Big fan. But if you're gonna like have this small thing and then get over it within the first like 50 pages, that's not enemies to lovers. I have strong feelings about enemies to lovers and how you can do it right and you can do it wrong. Anyway, I enjoyed it overall. Again, it was a 3-star. We got a lot of 3 stars in here. Really good overall, just like fun summer romance read. Didn't take a lot of brain power. And it was a debut book, so I think it's really great for a debut book. I'm excited to read the rest of the series because I like the idea of, I don't know, books about influencers. It's very of the now. And yeah, but I had a few problems. The enemies to lovers thing. It had a lot of like cringy girl boss millennial like phrases. When she was like talking online or talking to one of her influencer friends, she would end everything saying truth. Like she'd be like, believe me, truth. I love fitness, truth. I don't know, it just, it hurt my brain, and there was a lot of those weird little millennial sayings that just, I didn't like. Some of the things in here were very like cliche and overdone tropes, I guess. Like they had a, like, if I'm not married in 10 years, will you be my husband? A marriage pact, that's like everywhere. And then they had like an IKEA date, and I was like, 500 Days of Summer already did this, no one can live up to it. She was speaking in a British accent when she was drunk, and like, me too, but like, it's so overdone. It's not even quirky and cute anymore. So things like that. Also, this book technically took place in Boston, but it really could have taken place anywhere. Like there were no defining mentions of Boston. It felt like LA would make more sense because of the influencer thing, but I guess they were trying to be different, but it did not feel like Boston. It's also written by a Canadian author, and why do they always, like, every Canadian author that I read, I feel like sets their book in America? Is that a generalization? Probably, but why do they do that? Like, you probably know Canada better. Have you even been to Boston? Because it doesn't seem like it. Anyway, it sounds like I'm hating on this book, and I'm not. I just, no, I definitely am. But it was enjoyable. There were just some things that I was like, nah, this isn't like the Kiss Quotient, you know, like that level of romance gods, you know. Also, their connection, bad, awful. I saw no sparks. They kept telling us that they have such a connection, but did not show us in any way. They're just like, we are meant to be, but did not show us at all how that is. That's Set on You, 3 stars. I did enjoy it though, and I really liked the bathtub scene. Next we have another tiny little book. I'm showing you how tiny it is. This is Comfort Me with Apples, and this is another book that was talked all about, but I didn't want to spend like $15 on a tiny little book, but I did it. I bit the bullet and I did it. And it has a very cute cover, so worth it. I overall rated it a 4-star. I was very gripped into the story from the beginning, and it didn't really let go of its claws until about like 3/4 of the way through. I kind of got a little bored, but overall the twist was great. I didn't see it coming. I feel like probably other people will, but I don't want to say too much about it. But it's about this girl who is in like this perfect seeming town, but then things aren't as perfect as they seem. I think that's a good little synopsis. But yeah, beautiful writing again. So that's kind of a theme of this month, was like beautifully written books. So that's always good. Now I'm just down to this series that I started this month, and I started a bunch of series, 3 to be exact. The first is The Fine Print, and this cover is just, I'm not gonna lie, I bought this primarily because of the cover, because it's so gorgeous, and it's that matte kind of feeling. But anyway, this is about like a Disney World like universe, and there's these 3 brothers who, their grandpa is like Walt Disney and he owns the franchise, so when he dies he gives them tasks to complete before they can like take their share of the company. And it's a spicy romance, and this one features Rowan and Zara, and Zara is like an employee, and then Rowan is one of the boys, one of the sons that has to do stuff. This one is enemies to lovers. I think it was done very well, because you can tell that he genuinely does not like her at the beginning, which is my favorite, because I love a man who hates me and then turns out to love me. But I wasn't obsessed with Rowan. Like, he would not be a top book boyfriend, but Zara I loved. She was like quirky enough to where it's like cute and fun, but she wasn't too quirky to where it's annoying and unrealistic. And it like actually touched on some problems with the Disney like universe, which was cool, and it was just a very enjoyable read and was cute, and I even like teared up at the end, which was so stupid. And yeah, big fan. Go read it. Next, I started the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, which has like 3 or 4 books in it, and this book was so good. It's YA, which I don't like. I like not a fan of YA, but this one was great. It's a mystery. This girl, for her senior thesis project, decides to like investigate this murder that happened in her town, and she does it with the like the killer's brother, and they go on this like hunt to discover the truth. And it was so good. The problem with YA for me is sometimes I feel like it keeps the issues so light since it's kids reading it, which like makes sense, but I want to be ruined. But this book did not hold back. It was great, and yeah, 5 out of 5. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. I don't know why I didn't continue. I think I just got carried away with other books, but I have the second one. Then we're down to our last book, which is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I wasn't expecting this. Not at all. But it's Dumb Girl Summer. It is officially Dumb Girl Summer, which means I only want to read mindless romance books and some thrillers. So I bought this, and it's a like hockey college romance book. You know it, it's part of the off-campus series, and it was so good. Tell me why I flew through this in like a day, and I wanted to know what was going to happen at the end. Obviously I knew what was going to happen because it's a romance, but I wanted to, you know, be along for the journey and see how it all unfolded. It was so good. Why is it so good? I literally started this book and I was like telling my boyfriend how stupid it sounds and how I'm not gonna like it, and how I don't know why I bought the physical version. And then I got through with it and I was like, I need to read the rest of it. She put something in this book that is just addictive. So that's that. I think it's because it's like when you watch things like Gossip Girl, where you're like living through the characters. I don't know what it is, but the deal was incredible. I gave it like 4 stars because I thought the third act, you know, breakup thing that always happens, theirs was like especially stupid. I never thought I would pick up that series. I had heard about it for so long, obviously, and I was like, I'm never gonna read that. No. And now look at me. People can change. People can do hard things. That's the end of my May TBR. The TBR box is empty. Not TBR. May books that I read. The books that I read box. Anyways, and I'm losing my mind because that was like 14 books to recall and remember my emotions from, so I'm exhausted. That was a lot, but I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you've read any of these, or if you like any of them, or if you want to read them and stuff like that. So yes, thank you, and I'll be back with another book vid. Also go look at my Instagram because I really like Instagram now. I don't know, I'm on an Instagram kick. So yes, thank you, and see you soon. Bye.